In this video, I'm chatting with a buddy of mine called Jarvis. He goes by Jarvis Guitar on most socials. I found him a little over a year ago from Instagram videos. He's also huge on TikTok, so I'll link down in the description of the video to his socials there. He's a phenomenal player. He makes great videos. One of the things that he's done recently is Guitarist Top Trumps. Super funny, and I wanted to ask Jarvis who was his favourite guitarist out of the two people that he posted as a comparison on the Top Trumps. So that's what we're doing in this video. It's a super fun chat. Jarvis has also filmed an advanced fingerstyle course for my website, andyguitar.co.uk. There's some phenomenal stuff in there. My favourite one was a cascading licks video, which is something that I'd never seen before in my life. Super helpful. You'll find a link to that in the description of this video as well. Let's get on with the chat now. Be sure to click the like button and let me know what you think to this video in the comments below. I want to pull up the Top Trumps. Where did that come from?
Oh God!
Guitarist Top Trumps.
I don't know where that come from, man. I was just, I just have like a book like a little paper book, and I write ideas down in, whatever.
Amazing, the black book.
Yeah, the black book, exactly. I don't know where it is actually, but I'll just scribble stuff down, like content ideas. I'm sure you do the same, right? You'll be like, this series, write it down before I forget it, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and I just
in the most disorganized manner ever, by the way.
Just scrolls, just random stuff, and I just
it's
saw
the
this.
Same as like songwriting ideas, isn't it?
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. From the Top Trumps that you have posted, obviously the comparisons are always a bit random, and that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, who would you pick who's your favourite out of each guitar player?
Oh, right, out of all the ones we've done so far?
Yeah, so I've got them here, I'll shout them out.
Oh, okay.
Stevie Ray Vaughan or Dave Gilmour?
Oh, that's tough.
You posted it.
I think, as like who I'd actually listen to, and it would be
who's
Dave
your preference? Any reason, just a preference?
Yeah, Dave Gilmour. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan's obviously incredible, but I don't typically listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan because I don't. This might be a bit controversial. I don't really like the music very much. Like, I like his guitar playing, but like, I don't really listen to Double Trouble. It's not my bag, but I do listen to Pink Floyd. I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, so I mean, I know Stevie's like the best blues player or whatever, but. Yeah, Dave Gilmour's where it's at for tone and songwriting, anyway, for me.
That's cool. I totally appreciate that. I'd be more Stevie Ray Vaughan, but
Stevie.
More to watch for like a gig. That's the music I want to listen to when I go to a gig. That sounds like party music to me.
Yeah.
But like always just listening to in the background, I don't typically have blues on because it's hard to not associate with guitar playing and work and all that kind of stuff.
That's it. Yeah, I've just never really listened to Stevie much. It's funny.
All right. Red Hot Chili Peppers guitar players, John Frusciante or Dave Navarro?
Oh, yeah, it's a funny one. So I posted my stories. I was like, unpopular opinion, One Hot Minute's the best Chili's album. And I got loads of people just like, what, are you mad? And I was like, I loved One Hot Minute because One Hot Minute dropped in like, was it 94?
94, something like that, mid-90s, yeah.
And I would have been like 11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like the prime age. Like all those albums that came out in 91, I was like 7, 8. I was a bit young. Do you know what I mean? All those classic albums, Blood Sugar, bloody Nevermind, you know what I mean? Pearl Jam 10, Super Unknown, all of that came out in 91, right? So it's
absolutely, and it's got some absolute amazing songs on that have just been forgotten because John Frusciante. Aeroplane, for example.
It's great. Yeah, Walkabout's
my one. Aeroplane.
That's a killer tune. Everyone loves that bass line, right?
But back to the question: Dave Navarro or John Frusciante?
Oh God, I think it's got to be John. Really,
I know.
Yeah, it's got to be John. But
having spent the last year, my lockdown stuff was to do a lot more of those Cage System, Hendrixy type riffs. Yeah, just man. Way more under my fingers. And it was basically, okay, just study John Frusciante because he's pulled out all the best ones for you already. All right, next one. Eric Clapton or George Harrison?
Oh, George. Easy. I'm not. I like Clapton, but I like Cream era Clapton.
Yeah.
And Beano album and stuff like that. But since then, I just feel he's like You know, he's just like he's the blues dad, isn't he? He's like the rich 60-year-old man.
It is proper. It is dad rock. You can't get away from it.
You know what I mean? When playing the blues, I'm like, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't, you know, he just doesn't fire me up. Like, you know, George Harrison, though, it's like the guy's a certified legend. I mean, not like Clapton isn't a legend as well, but I feel he's just like, I know it sounds terrible, but it almost would have been better. You know, all the heroes die when they're young, right? I think if Clapton died when he was young, he would almost be a bigger, more celebrated.
That's very true. Well, look at look at Lennon versus McCartney. Yeah. You know, McCartney doesn't get anywhere near the praise or the credit that Lennon does.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm a McCartney fan out of those two. Like, for me, it's Macca. Like, I mean, you know, obviously they're both amazing, but McCartney's I prefer his songs, typically. That kind of...
Me too, and the melody first and harmony first is what I'm drawn to. And the lyrics of Lennon go deeper or a bit more cutting, but also just to listen to, I'm more of a... And for learning songs as well, there's far more to get from McCartney songs, probably.
Yeah, they're more intelligent from a sort of harmony point of view.
From harmonies, yeah. But I mean, the fascinating thing is they could both outdo each other with that, but that's what they'd be trying to do. Which one is it? Is We Can Work It Out is the most typical, like, here's what... You know, McCartney does, we can work it out, we can work it out. You know, that's the that's the Paul McCartney bit. The John Lennon bit, life is very short and there's no time. And it's all a bit minor. It's like hilarious.
Yeah. That's interesting, actually.
All right. Malmsteen versus Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, God. It's got to be Van Halen, right?
I think it would have been, I mean, obviously R.I.P. now. So the thing that we just mentioned about if you die, it does promote you to more legendary status, because you just it's like those recordings. It's like Hey Joe. It just becomes a moment in time.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many. Johnny B. Good as well. Like Chuck Berry never played Johnny B. Good exactly the same ever. In all the times he played it live, it was always something like it. But everybody wants to play it like the recording. You know,
like the recording, right?
Yeah. Do you have anything to say on Eddie Van Halen? Like, obviously the legend that is
Van Halen. I mean, I would have been never really like a huge Van Halen fan, to be honest with you. Like, I listened to, you know, when I was a kid, I was into like all the hair rock and the 80s kind of stuff. So, you know, like a bit of Van Halen and would have listened to it, but was never I mean, I just never got into shred guitar. I think that was the big thing. Like, I never got into like Steve Vai, and never had a pointy guitar, and never learned to shred. As kind of just never went down that avenue. And I think if you don't go that way, and then like you go to music college, you kind of end up, you've got the shredders, right? And they're all like, they're their gems, and they're just like, and you're like, oh well, if I can't be those guys, so I need to like not try and have one foot, just go the other way, do you know what I mean? And be like, okay, I'm not a shredder, I'll be the rhythm guy, or I'll do like, do you know what I mean? Play other styles of music, so.
Well, I know exactly what you mean, but also I know that you're a phenomenally technically proficient guitar player who can play crazy fast, but you don't consider yourself a shredder. You've just said. So how would you say, what was your way into playing faster?
Oh, I don't even think I play that fast, to be honest with you. Like, I'd say I'm...
just outside of, yes, you do. What was your way into playing faster when you're not into shred music?
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess just, I don't know what I play. I don't think I've ever really practiced anything with the goal of trying to play with speed, particularly. It's never been a massive goal for me. Mm-hmm. I guess just being at music college and just having to play certain things, do you know what I mean? Having to sort of...
And play with other people who are like, who play fast.
Yeah, exactly. Go out of your box a little bit, but I certainly wouldn't consider myself even like a remotely quick player. But you know, I guess that's all relative, right? Like you say, it's you know, like, yeah, so say someone might see me and think, oh, he can play fast, but at the same time, like, I'm thinking, you know, in the grand scheme of holistically, and I look at players who can really shred, I'm like, I can't do anything on their level, you know, so that's the great thing about music, though, right? It's like, it's all, you can be the best, but there's always someone better, there's always someone who can do something better than you. It's not a competition, do you know what I mean? It's like, you've just got to do you and lean into your own musicality, or, you know, what you get out of it, and not worry about what other people can do, I guess.
Amen. On a similar lines, on players that do put themselves into their instrument so much, Brian May or Carlos Santana?
Oh, Brian May. I love Santana,
Wow.
but I grew up listening to Queen, you know, so it's got to be Brian May. I think, and he's, you know, I think, like, actually thinking about Queen the other day, and I was kind of like thinking, you know, because they're like the biggest band in the world pretty much at the time, like them and like Led Zeppelin, people like that, and I kind of think they almost, I don't know, maybe I kind of feel like they almost don't get the credit they deserve a little bit, Queen.
The problem is when you become so iconic, I think it's quite easy to parody.
Yeah.
And also, they parodied themselves loads.
Yeah,
And they
that's
shot
very
themselves in the foot with it a lot. I Want to Break Free, for example.
true. Yeah.
Like, that killed him in America, for one. And they
Did
didn't get back until Wayne's World. Literally, Wayne's World did more for Queen than anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, with the Bohemian Rhapsody in the car thing.
That
You
was
know,
it. That brought Queen back and made them current. It's such a
Really?
huge thing because Freddie Mercury, I think I'm right in saying he just died by then. I think Wayne's World's 91 or 92, and
Yeah, about
so again, you've got that thing of how do you live on, and it
Yeah.
lived on through pop culture because they were
Yeah.
iconic. But therefore, it's, in my opinion, Queen. That's the highest batting average of all four members contributing loads. But it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like that way because you've got Freddie Mercury. You've got the best
Yeah,
frontman
yeah.
possibly ever. But all members wrote number one songs or hit songs. So
Yeah.
I don't think they had that many number ones. I think they had like 3 number ones.
Really, is it that little? I think that, I mean, the albums is the big thing, right? That's where everyone disses them, like, no great albums. And I was thinking, the other day, I was like, is that really true? And I kind of went and had a look at the song listings, and I was like, it is true. There's no, like, I always stick on the greatest hits, do you know what I mean? I always grew up with greatest hits albums for Queen.
My favourite Queen album is The Greatest Hits.
You know?
But it's a hell of a greatest hits. And I think they did have 3 albums of greatest hits. And
Yeah.
they weren't scraping the barrel by number 3. It's like, no, there's still some great stuff here. But both of those players, Santana and Brian May, both have that whole vibrato thing, that one note that they can just make sing.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge thing for me over the last couple of years because I've always really struggled with that. Not only to get like a really nice vibrato, but also just playing fast here is harder for me than playing fast like down the lower part of the neck. I can play loads faster on rhythm than I can lead.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe because of the combination of hammer-ons and flick-offs just feels easier here. And as soon as
Yeah.
we're doing that like this, I don't know, it's less stable for me.
Hand position.
Same with like
maybe.
playing one note and get it to sound great. It's on the thicker strings. Basically, I should have been a bass player, really. Shout out to...
One, man. Scott's bass lessons.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say shout out to John Paul Jones, actually, because he wrote a lot of the best Led Zeppelin riffs.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's the guitar riff because it's played on the guitar, but all Heartbreaker and stuff, I believe.
Oh, really?
It's a bass riff. Whole Lot of Love, it's a bass riff.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I've obviously got that from the internet at some point, so it could be wrong for those individual songs, but I know batting average, he wrote a lot of Led Zeppelin riffs.
Wow, yeah, I think he's definitely underrated.
All right. This is a conversation starter. Slash or Kurt Cobain?
Oh, crikey. I'd go with Slash just because I wasn't like a huge Nirvana fan when I was a kid. Typically, I was more into like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, but
Kudos to Guns N' Roses
yeah,
for straddling one of the most cut and dry periods of music ever, which was the 80s rock and the 90s grunge.
yeah, it's funny, right?
because there's a lot of bands that just were suddenly, that were 80s metal bands, you would say, that were just instantly uncool overnight because of Nirvana and because of Nevermind. It just made them look silly, and trends changed like that.
Yeah.
A lot of careers cut short, and Guns N' Roses were hair metal, but they weren't hair metal. Yeah. And then they just straddled that into the 90s just very well. And then obviously imploded because, you know, they're rock stars and they did rock star stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's that's very fascinating how much they were able to navigate that. It's impressive.
Yeah, I don't know how they got away with it, to be honest with you, in a weird way. Like you say, you know, it's pretty... You know, you listen to it, it is pretty like the screaming vocals and like it's proper rock, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like,
it is, but there's good songs. There's good songs. I mean, you can do acoustic versions of any. You know, Taylor Swift could cover most Guns N' Roses songs.
Yeah, but even like dropping "Use Your Illusion" was a double album, right?
Yeah.
And when was that? 90? Was that 91 as well?
I think later. I think 3. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. But it's in that time when like
it's peak Nirvana time.
Yes, peak Nirvana, and like putting out a double concept album is not exactly grunge, right? Do you know what I mean? It's quite like self-involved, like, you know. I guess Thingy did it as well, though, right? Smashing Pumpkins put out Melancholy around that sort of time, which was, but they were
very, like, I don't think you'd say they're grunge, but they're grungy.
No. They were rocky,
like,
though.
Cartone-wise, it's that shoegazer thing, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. What genre they fit into exactly?
Well, alternative rock, but yeah, if you're going more specific than that, there's definitely a shoegaze element to, and they have a lot in common with grunge in the guitar tone and that kind of thing, and the stuff they're playing. Nice one. All right. James Hetfield or Dave Mustaine?
Oh God, I don't even know where I'd start with those two. I
think
guess
start by doing this, and then
I think I'd say Hetfield just because I've never really listened to Megadeth, you know. But I think I mainly put that one up just because everyone wanted to see it, right? Everyone's like Mustaine, Hetfield, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. But I don't, you know. I used to like Metallica when I was a kid, but I think ever since I watched that documentary,
Some Kind of Monster. It's amazing, isn't it?
That's one of the best films ever.
It is. And then what's also hilarious is the album that really, I think it was Sent Anger, has the worst sounding snare drum ever. It sounds like a frying pan. And the whole album's just ruined because of it. They made an album that sounded so not Metallica. Metallica have like, say what you want, but they've got a cracking sound to them that defines the genre in many ways.
Yeah.
And that album again, I was like, what are they playing?
Yeah, it was just, I remember seeing that, a friend of mine I was working with, and he was like, oh, you've got to watch this Metallica documentary. And at the time I was like, oh, really? I was like, man, I really don't want to watch this Metallica. I'm not really into them anymore. Put it on. 2 minutes later, I was like, my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. They're like life coach guys. Like, you know, how does this make you feel, James? You know, why don't you write all this down? It's like, man, this is, you know.
I mean, they must have known how Spinal Tap it was, but they clearly either embraced that or just, I don't know. I think they might have thought they were making real art. And like, because it was around that time when reality TV had just started as well. So I think they were doing I think they thought they were making like the best documentary ever about them.
I think they were just totally so self-absorbed, and I think by that point, like, you know, you've been the biggest band in the world for 20 years. How can you really? You can't begin to understand what headspace you must be in.
No. And especially when you still have to be those rock and or the metal, the 80s metal as you were when you're like 45 and you're a dad of 3.
Yeah. I saw there's a little meme going around Instagram that's like Metallica fan, and it shows a guy he's just like all covered in piercings and black leather, and then it shows singer of Metallica, and it shows James Hetfield with like a bunch of like designer clothes bags and just wearing some like LA clothes. Sandals. Wife outside some like Sephora or something, and you're like,
amazing.
Oh dear.
Right. The riff battle, Jimmy Page versus Angus Young.
Oh, that's tough. For me, Jimmy Page. Although I'm not knocking the, you know, incredible work of Angus Young, but yeah, Led Zeppelin over AC/DC for me, definitely. Although AC/DC do rock, you know.
But that's the thing, you've got there's so much crossover, but also you could play like 10 acoustic guitar Led Zeppelin songs, and you won't be able to find anything like that for AC/DC. It's like sometimes they slow the tempo down, but it's still the same AC/DC sound every time. They're never like, actually, this is going to... Go on, sorry.
As long as it's got these chords in it, right? As long as it's got D over F sharp and G in it.
It is the AC/DC chords. A, C, D, and G.
And it works for them. It's like a bloody Rage Against the Machine, though. How many riffs do you want to do that are bloody... It's like E, F sharp and A forever, right?
Well, speaking of that, there's a reason for that as well, which is kudos to Jimmy Page, because Immigrant Song, F sharp, is one of Tom Morello's like favorite riffs. I think it's his favorite riff. Therefore, he's ripped it off as many times as he can. But he does that great. It's that open to second fret and the octave that it gives you.
Sounds killer. Tom Morello's a great one though, right? You know, he's speaking a lot about like 90s sounds. Like, you know, I remember when Rage Against the Machine came out, and they sounded so fresh, man. It was proper. You know, no one else sounded like them. And then he's playing like this heavy stuff. He's just playing an open tuning, you know, regular tuning with a Telecaster, no drop D, and it's so heavy. It's so heavy. Like, how is it so heavy? I'm not tuned down to B or whatever, or do you know what I mean? It's just pure pocket, just big grooves, you know. Great riffs.
Absolutely. Really like bog standing gear as well. It's like a Telecaster into a Marshall.
JCM 800, yeah.
Which no one else playing through a JCM 800 sounds like that. That's the Slash amp, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. Neck pickup, I think. He never used the bridge pickup. And actually, even though he's got a rep for being like a gearhead, he's hardly got any gear. He's got like that whammy pedal that kind of got his tone.
Digitech.
That's it. But then I think apart from that, he doesn't really use hardly any pedals, really, even though he's kind of got this, you know, everyone thinks of him for having all these cool effects and that, whereas actually it's just squeezing so much juice out of this, like, simple little orange, you know?
Absolutely. No, it's brilliant. Right, Steve Vai or Prince?
Oh, Prince.
His royal badness.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd say the same.
But Prince is... I mean, you know, Prince is on a pedestal up there. You know, there's not many people. You know, you got like, he's just everything though, right? He's not like he's an incredible guitar player, but you know, just like from a songwriting point of view, just as an artist, I don't think there's many. You know, I mean, you got like Michael Jackson, people like that, but there's not many other.
He does go up to that other level where you compare him to other greats great guitar players. Other great artists, musicians, film stars. He's like that's Prince. I really regret not seeing him when he did those. Was it 21 Nights or something at the O2?
Yeah.
It's like
live.
You did 21. You could have gone to one of them, Andy.
Yeah. You could have dragged yourself up to one.
But that was at a time when that sort of, I think that was late noughties, late 2000s, and.
Right.
Wasn't going to many gigs around then. I was working a lot of gigs and playing a lot, but I wasn't going to a lot. And it was after then, I saw AC/DC at Download at 2010.
Wow.
And for literally the next decade until literally lockdown happened last year, I've seen a lot of gigs and a lot of the big ones that I'd missed out on.
Yeah, make the effort.
Like a lot of these people won't do this again.
Yeah. I went and saw Guns N' Roses a couple of years ago. That was good fun.
Absolutely. Where did you see them?
Where the Olympic Stadium one in near is it Stratford or whatever? I forget.
Yeah, the London Stadium, I think they call it now. The Olympic.
Yeah, that was great. Saw Fleetwood Mac a few years ago as well. That was great.
Nice. Amazing.
When, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were still talking or whatever.
I know, right? Yeah, that's not anymore. But
that was amazing. Actually, they blew me away.
It's so good. Like Fleetwood Mac are like top 3, right? They're often my favourite, but I don't know. There's
I'd put them up there.
They're right.
Buckingham and Nick's album pre Fleetwood
Not
Mac?
enough, but I know that from the Sound City documentary that Dave Grohl did,
Oh, is it
which is
on there? It's just the
phenomenal.
two of them on the front in like black and white or whatever. Man, that album is so good.
Do you know the story? Do you know the story of how they joined?
Yeah. Mick and Thingy were like just in a random studio, right? And they heard
Sound
one of the
City.
solos.
They
Right,
they
okay,
literally
yeah.
just put it on to demo the
Yeah.
sound system in the studio.
And he was like, I want that
He's
guitar
like, who
player,
are they?
right? And it's like, that guitar player comes with this singer.
It was
Right?
like he was like, I just want the guitar player. He's like, you'll
Yeah.
not get the guitar player without taking his girl as well. She's got to come with him. They come as a pair.
It's crazy.
Thus the drama was born.
Oh,
Rumor?
man.
No, it was all true.
Yeah.
That's a Flight of the Conchords joke, by the way. Right, moving on. This is a loaded one. Again, if anyone's watching this and like what we're doing, we're comparing all Jarvis's top trumps people. So Jimi Hendrix versus John Mayer. That's loaded as AF.
You don't need to get me started on John Mayer.
Yes, I do.
Just interviewed Tomo as well. Oh, dear. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against John Mayer, but it's Jimmy all day. My thing with John Mayer, though, is more that I don't even really, know who John Mayer was until I started going on Instagram. Like, genuinely, I mean, he's not a big thing over, maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but I feel like he's not really that big a deal in the UK, right? Compared to in America, where he's a superstar.
He's known, but yeah, has he had many number ones? No.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just feel like I didn't really know who he was. So I was just like, okay, I kind of knew who he was a bit, and then I went on Instagram and something like John Mayer. I'm like, okay. Then I sort of checked him out. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like he's a pop star who plays good guitar. That's kind of how I feel about him.
Yes, but it's hard to, once you've because he did mega crossover into the mainstream in the 2000s. Didn't he go out with Jennifer Anderson and stuff?
Yeah, exactly, right. So I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I was just.
I'll tell you one thing you might not know about him, which is massive respect. He had, I think it was a vocal nodule or something.
Okay.
So he had to have something removed in his vocal cords. And he had to have his vocal cords numbed so he couldn't speak. And I think that was for like a year or something.
Wow.
So he literally, it was his first album after that was that Born and Raised, and he was like dressed as a cowboy and in the mountains and stuff, which looks really pretentious unless you know he literally did go and live in the mountains for like a year because he wasn't allowed to speak. Otherwise, he would never be able to sing again.
Right. Well, that puts a bit more context to it.
And that's, of course, see, when you go through something like that, it's unseen, isn't it? You literally disappear.
Yeah, yeah.
The prevailing thing of John Mayer is like, he's a pop star, he's, a celebrity more than anything else.
Yeah,
but that's why post all of that, he got big into like the guitar community, and I think that's where like releasing his own guitar and stuff like that comes from. Because
I mean, there's no he's an amazing guitar player. There's no doubt about.
But what about Hendrix? What was your was it at some point, especially when you get to the level you're at, you've probably studied Hendrix like for a purposeful while. So what was your way into that?
I mean, Little Wing, Castles Made of Sand, like the classics, I guess, really. But I've never, I mean, I know I've got friends who got more into the Hendrix thing. He can just play all his catalogue, you know what I mean, all his solos. I've learnt bits and bobs from him, but more like you're saying, like the Frusciante caged kind of approach, right? Just kind of embellishing chords, whatever, with the, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Just...
So there's a reason I've just picked up this. It's because I got this, how long, maybe 3 years ago now.
Okay.
And before I got this, I was mainly a Les Paul player or Les Paul style guitars. And I had a Gretsch. What else have I got here? D'Angelico's, that's like a dot semi type thing. Yeah. And none of them do what a clean Strat does. But one of the biggest things, it isn't just the pickups, it isn't just the single coils. It's the neck has a hell of a, it's really, what do they call it? The radius of it. It's far more rounded. And all the other guitars I'd ever owned that were electric guitars, it's flat as hell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And all this, even just playing a bar chord like this, which then leads to like all that kind of Hendrixy chords and the Little Wing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to do, or it just did not connect with me on the Les Paul style guitars.
Yeah, yeah.
And as soon as you get this, you know, I could play all of Hendrix's like riffs and like Purple Haze and stuff. They sing on a Les Paul just as much.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially, you know, put it to the neck pickup. But the cleaner stuff on a Strat, it's like, it just makes sense, and that really works.
Yeah, it's the sound helps as well, right? Just to get you in that headspace. You know, if you put it on the neck pickup and it feels a bit comfier and you're off and it sounds right, and you're like, you know, it's hard not to play that stuff, right? On a neck pickup on a Strat.
A huge one as well for anyone on a budget. The clean Strat thing is much easier to achieve than the cranked Les Paul sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I always wanted that Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, like cranked plexi sound, and for it to be my amp can't cope, good sound. It's really hard to capture that when you can be at 1 in your bedroom.
Oh, mate, yeah, impossible.
Whereas the clean Strat sound with some reverb, you can do it easily. And then put a fuzz pedal or an overdrive pedal on this, and suddenly, again, it sounds great at lower volumes because you're actually hearing the pedal. And that's what the original sound is doing a lot of as well. So top tips there.
Get a fuzz and roll the volume off as well if you want to get that kind of slightly chimey, a little bit of grit, but you know, but still.
I agree. You do what I found with that, and again, I was never into that before, but it was an Epiphone Les Paul that I had. One of that's phenomenal guitars, but one of the things with them is a lot of the pots can get very dusty, or sometimes the wiring's not that good. I mean, it's those type of guitars. When you roll off the volume, sometimes it doesn't sound that good because you're literally putting less single through cheap parts.
Yeah,
and that is where the more premium, like, it's ridiculous, but that is why you would pay a couple of £1,000 for some of these guitars, not only for the way it plays and the type of woods, but when you roll it off, that quality's still there. And I never understood that like early on, and I've just started to get a lot more into that with volume control.
Yeah, it's definitely where the like, you know, I've got a few Epiphones and whatnot through the years. Like, 100%, that's where they cut the corners on save the money is on the electronics.
It is, isn't it? Like the pickups as well, perhaps. On my Epiphone Les Paul, one of the first things I did was put a Seymour Duncan SH1 pickup at the bridge, which is literally trying to be that 59 sound. And I was like, I don't need a better guitar now. I've got one.
That's it. I think pickup change the electronics or whatever, and you know, if you can afford to do a small like neck dressing or something, and you're basically most of the way there pretty much.
So you've done a series on a parts caster. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was great fun.
Where'd the idea for that come from? How did it go for you?
Oh, I don't even remember. Oh, do you know what? Well, actually, I'll tell you where it come from. Was you know, like those tacky American like car programs where they just like they get a crap car and they like modify it and then like pimp my ride, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And I was thinking, I was just watching one of those one day and I thought, oh, this would be cool if you could do it with a guitar. And obviously I dreamed up this thing and then the reality was completely different, but it still worked out. It was a great little idea, I think. It worked out really well, but just took a long time was the only problem with it. If I could have kind of compressed it and made it a bit quicker, I think it would have been even better. But yeah, it was really good fun. It's a great way also just to like get people involved. Followers can feel like they're more involved in the process, and then and then I raffled it off at the end, which was amazing. That was really cool. You know, got to send it off to some guy in Manchester and see him playing it, which was great. It was like so like got the proper warm and fuzzies. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, very good. No, that's lovely. Yeah. You do seem like you would fit right in on Scrap Heap Challenge or something like that. I'd be totally lost. I wouldn't have a clue.
Challenge, brilliant. Yeah, it was great fun though. I'm going to do another one. I'm doing more of that kind of, you know, get people involved with sort of the build process. But yeah, the other thing was just a bit of like education, because, you know, loads of people always like, oh, I want a better guitar, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, you can just go and like buy really high quality parts and put them together and build a, you know, I mean, that guitar cost about £1,000 in parts, but, you know, if you were going to buy the equivalent like Fender custom shop, or it would cost you like $2,000, $3,000 or something crazy. It's like
it can, and there's often I've had it with mine because I've wanted to update my Strat, a couple of things on it. One was initially the pickups, and I'm like, but actually these pickups do that one thing that I need this guitar to do really well. I could change them so that it does something else really well, but will it do that first thing really well then? You've got to be really careful when you're changing bits on a guitar, because you might lose what you liked about it in the first place.
Yeah. Like I put a Stetz bar on my Telecaster. I haven't got it here, it's just around the back there, but it's like a whammy bar for a Telecaster, basically. I was like, oh, I'll get one of those, put it on, and then I was like, actually the bridge was just so finicky and such a pain. Like now I'm like, oh, I wish I just had the old no frills, doesn't go out of tune, solid as a rock Telecaster bridge, which is why you love a Telecaster, right? And then like you put this thing on it and suddenly it becomes this pain in the arse, like you've got a Floyd Rose on your telly. I'm like, why did I do that? You know, like if I want a whammy bar, I'll just go and use one of my other like 10 million guitars I've got that's probably got a whammy bar on it. You know?
This has got one it just knocks them out of tune. You just catch it. Literally the only song I've ever taught that needs it is Apache. I don't teach Apache that often. I need it on.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I just got it for the whole, like, you know, that neo soul thing where they're always doing loads of vibrato on all those lovely sus chords and stuff. So that was kind of half the thinking. But it's not like, you know, like I'm not J-Mo. I'm not like you know, I do it for fun. Do you know what I mean? I like to play that stuff, but it's not.
One thing I will ask. You'll think I'm mad, but I go for 9s on everything, and I have gone for 8s on everything.
Oh,
where do you sit on string gauges?
String gauges, 10s is pretty much what I normally use on electric, acoustic. 12s is pretty standard. Trying to think what else, and then just regular normal tension on my nylon strings as well. But I know like Rick Beato did that video a while ago, didn't he? Saying, oh, like, you know, string gauge doesn't matter and all this kind of stuff. I've not actually watched that video, to be fair, but I know you know, he's so popular it kind of ripples through the community and you just see people talking about it. But
I wouldn't say it said it didn't matter. There was an audible difference when you went thinner, and often when you went thinner it sounded better, was an argument for him.
I think the thing for me more than the with the string gauge is actually just the tension of the string. Like if I played with 8s and I did a bend, it'd be like, woo! You know what I mean? I wouldn't be used to that light tension. So I think it's just, well, you know, it's like when you change guitars, you know, like I'll play my telly and then you play the Jazzmaster, you play another guitar, and it's like you've got to adjust for the tension. You're doing a bend and it's like you've got to feel it out, right? And I guess that's just part of playing guitar. And even like the tension's different if you do a bend. Try and do it on an acoustic down here, and then you do it down here on the low string. Like the tension's different anyway, so
it is.
8s into the mix, I think I'd be all over the shop.
Get some wild overbends there, like 5-fret bends.
Yeah, but whoa, crikey! I've just done a 3-tone bend or something. But, 10s typically. To be honest with you, I'm like one of those, like typically like anti-gear kind of guitar players. I know I've got a little bit of stuff, but like I've never been into like, you know, like just buying loads of stuff and tinkering. Like actually, more, you know, as I'm like making more content and stuff, it becomes a bit more like, oh, maybe I'll grab a pedal, or like, you know, someone's like, oh, do you want to try this pedal out? I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, it's fine. It's a bit of content and it's fun. But you know, I was never one of those guys who's going out and just always looking for the next
shiny thing.
You know, yeah, I've never been too bad. I mean, I've got a fair amount of guitars, but I've never been that dragged into it. But you know, I think it's the forums are the killers, man. If you get into those forums,
I've never been a forums guy. But yeah, like I've never been a gear guy, and then look at me, like this is ridiculous. So, but it is my job, and yeah, you do acquire things over the years. But yeah, this was one I bought off a Reverb actually, and it's just a Mexican as well. Like 550 quid.
Yeah.
Turned out the guy knew me from like he knew me from YouTube, so he threw in a hard case as well. Can't remember the guy's name now. I feel terrible, but yeah, I did actually buy it off someone who who did us a bit of a deal on it as well. And it's the Wayne's World guitar as well. We're not Were.
Yeah. I do love a white Strat rosewood board.
White guitars just pop live, on camera, on stage. They just pop. As soon as you get a color, like black guitars look great in person, black guitars just disappear on stage or anything like that, and it's a real shame. Nothing wrong with white guitars. On all that kind of playing with feel and stuff, I once saw that you posted and made a bit of a deal of like that you'd done a 2-hour warm-up and then you started practicing. And I think it's really important because I think for anyone to get up to a certain level, yeah, the 10-hour Steve Vai practice routine was obviously like famous because it was written in a guitar magazine and everyone went, wow, that's amazing. You know, obviously that's what it takes. But I think most players that end up making a living from playing to whatever level, there's always at least a period in their life where they play guitar every day for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then if they ever come away from that, they've put their hours in, so they've got enough chops to be able to like get it back. But at some point, you've got to play guitar for a substantial amount of time for like 4 hours a day. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, because you're at a high level in so many different genres as well. So have you like tried to, in a 4-hour practice routine, which a good amount of that isn't structured and written down. Some of it is just playing and jamming because that's important as well. But would you ever try and do 2 hours acoustic, 2 hours electric? You know, how would you think about doing it?
I can't do it. I'm just never like, I'm sitting here the acoustic now, but I've like literally I've barely played acoustic this last. I go through waves. Like this is how I like stay interested in the guitar. I don't know how people just play electric blues. And that's it. And that's all I can't do it. Like, and that's kind of how, if you look at my content, it's like I'll be posting electric stuff and then it'll just disappear for a bit and I'll just post acoustic stuff and then that might disappear. I might post flamenco for a bit and it just really like goes in waves. So, I mean, I guess originally I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to go to ACM, go to music college. So putting a lot of hours there, right, playing the electric guitar and just trying to learn whatever we had to learn for college. And then basically I left college and I didn't even own an acoustic guitar. So I was 21 or something like that and I didn't even have an acoustic guitar. And then a Spanish friend was like, oh, you should learn flamenco. Bought me a flamenco book. My brother got me a nylon string and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is actually quite good fun. It's like totally different. So then like some in Brighton, super fortunate to be in like a, multicultural city. There was a guy, Paul Aguilera, who used to own a little guitar shop down on Edward Street back in the day, and he used to play like incredible flamenco. So I started getting lessons with him, and then kind of put the hours in there. And then I literally didn't play electric for like. I mean, I taught electric, but I didn't play electric for fun for maybe 10 years. Like not at all. Like you would never see me play an electric guitar, ever. I was just sitting there on my nylon string trying to play flamenco or like writing, 80s bloody. My guitar's really out of tune. Terribly out of tune. But
you played the first chord then, and I was like, la 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 la.
La 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 la. You know what it is, right? But so just that's a 70s tune actually, not 80s. But anyway, just sort of doing silly chord melodies, learning flamenco, and I put a lot of time into that. And then kind of, from a flamenco, it's like I'm never going to be a professional flamenco guitar player, and it's like a cultural thing as well. It's like. And there's just not the scene here, right? It's like you can't, and the standard's so high, so it was pretty much just totally for fun and for personal, like, just as a challenge, right? So I put a lot of hours in there, and then kind of came full circle again, started picking my electric up again a bit more, and been like, oh, I kind of feel like I'd taken this huge hiatus from electric playing, so got back into electric, and then joined the swing band. I was playing with the Swing Ninjas. And like I didn't know anything about swing guitar, it's like literally nothing at the time. And then actually Jamie, the old guitarist, used to play like quite a lot of gypsy stuff. So it's like
gypsy
I better learn how to play. Yeah, I can't play lead, but like I just learned how to do the proper. just doing it's called la pompe, right? It means the pump in French. So that's literally what that style is called.
Oh wow!
Just sitting there playing 2 and 4. So I was like, okay, I'll kind of learn how to do that, and then playing, So that's why I just end up like just one of these. I'll dip my toes in there, dip my toes in there. But that's what keeps me interested and makes me put the hours in, right, into that genre.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I was taught piano first. Like I had piano, I was kind of semi-made, but kind of wanted to as well have piano and keyboard lessons from being like 9. But even then I was already into like computer music and sequencing and all that kind of thing.
Right, okay.
On an Amiga Commodore is where I started.
Wow, sequencing on an Amiga.
Absolutely.
You should dig some of that out, man.
And I don't even. I might actually buy. Wasn't it Danish Pete bought like an old 90s like Boss unit on eBay or something? It was brand new, and it's like the memories. Like it's amazing. But yeah, played keyboards, piano, production, learned to sing a little bit. And yeah, there's no way I could have just done one style of guitar.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, to make some progress in anything, you do need to dig into it and just stay on that for a certain amount of time. But I think a lot of people are scared of that. I think they feel like if they stop playing the songs that they always play, they'll lose them. And if you don't play every day, then there's a certain amount of practice you need to do to maintain. But that's what that 20 minutes, half an hour, most days after work, once you get up to a certain level, that's all it does. It kind of maintains your skills. You don't have enough time to dig deep into it. And for anyone, that's thinking, they've got a short attention span and there's no way they could practice anything for 4 hours. Like we do too. We have a short attention span. So we're constantly looking at the new thing, something different, but then also trying to do something with it. Like trying to nail a new genre, trying to play something that you've never done before and just see where that takes you. So going back to my question about a practice routine, like how would you consciously set aside the time, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, plan that? Like, how does that work in your working life now?
I never plan it at all. For these days, I don't practice. I just don't have the time anymore to practice. Like, really, I try a bit, but
it's always for something, right? Trust me, if I'm doing a lesson or something on it, I practice it to hell. It's nothing like a debt. Like I need to do this by Friday. I'm going to put the hours in this week. You know what I mean?
And I was like, I need to practice my finger style. I haven't been playing for a while, so I better dig the acoustic out and actually practice.
I know, but what people typically want is 5 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of that.
Yeah.
But all of that should just be used as a rough guide to get you started, to get you playing. And then it's like, just dig into whatever inspires you, whatever makes you pick this thing up in the first place.
100%,
dig into it, but like, get a bit obsessed with it because that's what it takes.
I personally, I find the only things that really keep me sat at the instrument is finger style arrangements typically, and that's what really sucks me in. I'll put serious hours in, but even solo in practice, like I've been having a few lessons myself with this guy Ozzy in Italy, and even then with like I'll see him once a month or something, I still find it hard, and I'll have to be accountable to him but I still find it hard to find practice time to do on for myself. I think that's the biggest battle really of playing guitar, is to keep inspired and to keep the motivation going, to keep making progress. That's really the hardest battle. And for me, I've always found it from, like I said before, just by changing genres and styles and dipping my toes in, but really dipping my toes in, like actually spending a lot of time on them. But even if it's not to master the genre and it's just to like be competent, and able to play enough that you can, sit down in that setting and whatever it is, play some swing in a band, or like play a bit of flamenco if I was in Spain and wouldn't feel too embarrassed about it. Or do you know what I mean? But
absolutely. But I think that idea of things going in waves one way or the other is really good, because you're always coming back to the center, which is You're becoming a unique cocktail of what you've studied and the music that you're into.
100%. Yeah, that's it. You just have to embrace it, right? It's like, I'm never going to be like the best blues guitar player. I'm never going to be the best flamenco guitar player, the best swing player. But it's like, but I can play a bit of everything. So it's like, it's you just got to lean into yourself a bit more, right? And just be aware of, where your strengths are, where, you got to deploy self-awareness, I guess, right? That's the big thing. But going back to
what would you say about when music and playing guitar becomes something bigger than just getting better? Because nothing you've said there, you've said, nothing you've said there was all about just getting better for better's sake. It's like, I want to get grade 8 and then that's it, I'll be happy or anything. And you were mentioning, so what about musical goals and the other things, the other benefits to your life that learning guitar can bring? Like joining a band, the social element to it. Have you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I think you can take analogies from everything from learning music, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can take so much out of that, like just learning how to learn, like patience. Patience is a big one, right? You got, like incremental steps. There's so much you can take from it and apply it to your philosophy for life, right? If you expect to like just, I don't know, like be in a new situation and expect to excel in it straight away, it's not going to happen, is it? You've got to like, you've got to put the hours in and understand that, you've got to pay your dues, right? And I think like learning anything, like a craft, anything that takes a long time to master and you've got to put thousands and thousands of hours in, you understand the headspace of like, oh, this is going to take a long time and I'm not going to be good at it straight away and I've got to enjoy the journey and the process. I think that's the big takeaway, and that's why when you try and teach, if you teach someone who plays another instrument, it could be a saxophone. It could have zero to do with playing guitar, but they understand the process. They might not even understand theory. They might just, just be a whiz on saxophone, not know anything about anything, and just be like, oh, I can just play the out the saxophone. But they understand you've got to put in like 10,000 hours of, going over and over and over and over and over again. And then when you go to play guitar, and like they realise that they're not just going to pick it up and be like, I'm amazing, right? So I think stuff like that's life lessons, right? Playing
Absolutely.
for a band.
It could be the same for someone else. They think, oh, I could never focus on anything and learn an instrument or anything. But how many computer games have they completed?
Man.
You know what I mean? And I'm actually really pleased I'm not a gamer. Yeah. Because it does seem like that can take up the space, which for other people is music or learning an instrument and a band. And it's just as social because they're all talking to each other. Yeah, it's got the same kind of fine motor skills and like speed of thought and stuff. But you do have to choose a little bit because it does take away those hours of the day. One thing I haven't got that I wish I had was just more evidence or photos or more of an awareness of how the hell I got as good at guitar without the help in like my early teens. Yeah. Because I honestly don't know. And the biggest thing that I am aware of is that I was taught music a little bit first on piano and learned a lot myself. A lot of ear training done with like playing with these MIDI sequences that I talked about before.
Yeah.
And then you're just finding that on guitar rather than needing to learn everything like at the same time. I was finding music on a guitar, and even if it was just on one string, I was able to find a melody. There's loads of riffs that I've learned by ear, in the 90s, and when I come to teach them, I'm like, wow, I was way off. But, they sounded the same. What do you remember about your early days of learning guitar? Like, did you have lessons?
Yeah, I've always had lessons. So I literally had a private tutor pretty much from day dot. My brother plays guitar as well, and I actually wanted to play drums, and I think my parents were like, no.
I feel for the drummers. My brother got his kid a drum kit. My brother's kid's a drummer.
Like, we'll get him a guitar and then get him some guitar lessons. So I had guitar lessons, private lessons, but like even those like Steve, guitar teacher, he was an amazing player, like actually really high level player, but probably like his teaching methods were like, he did teach me a lot, but a lot of it was just like you know, actually kind of inspirational in a way. To be like, oh, this guy's an incredible guitar player, but you know, maybe could have taught me a bit more academically. But whatever, it inspired me to be a guitar player, so it worked, right?
And that's the main thing, right? I think if he had taught you more academically and been less inspiring, that wouldn't have served as well, right?
So it's interesting, yeah, the methods, you know, and then went to ACM when I was really young, so did that. Left ACM and then started teaching pretty much straight away in schools. So I've always, you know, just always played guitar pretty much, or like found my path pretty early on, which was, you know, lucky for me. You kind of take it for granted, right? Do you know what I mean?
I think we do, but you say did you have an older brother you say played?
Yeah, he was a big influence, like as
exactly the same here. That's where like the computer music from 9 years old comes from.
Yeah,
because otherwise you just wouldn't have found it. And a lot of people always think, oh, that'd be nice, but because they've got no way into that world, it's just too scary.
Yeah,
perhaps easier these days with the amount of stuff that is Googleable and online, but no less daunting. No less daunting.
Yeah. It's a funny one. It's a different challenge now, though, right? So, like, when I was, you know, I grew up in Cornwall, man. Do you know what I mean? And like, in the 80s and 90s, I had to get on a bus, go to the local town, which was like 5 miles away, go to like what was essentially a gift shop that had some tapes in the back, see if they had anything decent, and then order stuff in, like put it on order, go back like 2 weeks later and get like the latest Red Hot Chili Peppers album. It's like, kids don't really, you know, I'll talk like it was 1940 or something. Do you know what I mean? That's like, there was no resources for learning guitar. Like, there's no, you know, I mean, you get a tab book, like a Red Hot Chili Peppers tab book or something, but it wasn't widely available. And now it's just like kids have got, I mean, how many videos have you got on YouTube? How, like 1,000? You know,
like, well over 1,000, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just you. And that's like how much great resources are there these days. But now it's the opposite problem. There's too much resources. So people go like, I want to learn guitar. Teach me guitar. And then they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. There's too much. They go, oh,
it's overwhelming, right? And I'll tell you the other thing as well. All of that I said before, where I was taught music and learned a little bit from experimenting myself, and then found melodies on guitar, found riffs on guitar, literally start from one note and try and play something. Did amazing things for my ear training, which made me a really self-sufficient guitar player, and meant I could jam with anybody. I could learn most songs just from listening to it, or at least just with a little bit of help. Where are we? Oh yeah, then off you go. That's probably the biggest thing that's getting lost from online learning.
Yeah. Because
everyone's just like, where do I put my fingers?
Yeah.
And not perhaps taking that time to learn by ear and stuff.
No, I agree. I guess it's just evolution, right? It's just, you know, everything changes. So, I mean, you know, like, you know, I'm sure the guys who learnt in the 60s and 70s, I think, oh, at least you had cassette tapes. I had to put my thing on a vinyl, or like record it off the radio, wait until a song came on the radio and try and work.
We just had sheet music in my day, boy.
Yeah, you know, we'd all sit around the piano with the latest sheet music from 1930 and blast it out. You know, like.
Oh, it's a classic, mate. Stick on that sheet music.
Cheers, Andy.
Nice one, mate. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, you take care. I'll speak to you soon, man.
Bye.
See you later.